Interesting topic here. Phil covered it on the Blaze, and it's talking about vaccinated people. According to a report, they report suffering from cave syndrome, afraid to return to normal life, or in some cases leave their homes at all. There's some layers to this. We're going to talk about this, but let's see what Phil had to say first. On May 13th, after more than a year of mask and social distancing, the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they amended its guidelines for fully vaccinated people. But some of the fully vaccinated people, the news did not alleviate deeply felt fears about health and safety that had become embedded into our psyche. Rather than experiencing a sense of freedom, some continued to feel anxious about rejoining regular life with its crowds, open air, and free-floating pathogens. After a year in isolation, this came from the Scientific American, which we talked about. Those, a lot of them are compromised, but hey, it is what it is. After a year in isolation, many people who have developed an intimate understanding of what it means to be socially isolate are afraid to return to their normal lives despite being fully vaccinated. It continues emerging, and it said it turns out that there is actually a name for psychological phenomenon. It's called cave syndrome. Emerging into light after a year locked inside is proving to be a difficult transition for some people. This was published in May. Went on to say, to prove the point, it detailed the experiences of one fully vaccinated Flint, Michigan resident who explained that she has become even more fearful of the infection. After being diagnosed with COVID in November 2020, Andrea King Collier doubted the antibodies that she had developed in response to the illness would protect her from a second infection, and was determined to be the first in or near the front of the line for a vaccine, even though she has the antibodies. The Flint, Michigan resident registered at every vaccine distribution site she could and never stopped looking for a way to get the shots early. By February 21st, Collier had received her second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, but when the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention gave the green light for vaccinated people to resume pre-pandemic activities such as gathering indoors without masks on March 8th, she did not experience the sense of freedom she had imagined. If anything, she became more fearful of infection. She has yet to eat in a restaurant or see anyone beyond her pandemic bubble. Formerly an avid traveler, Collier says she cannot imagine getting on an airplane again in the foreseeable future. 2 months later, the strange psychological condition is still plaguing many, the Wall Street Journal reported this week that scores of individuals who are fearful of plunging back into social activities are awkwardly declining invitations out, avoiding throngs of people, and or dreading or even putting off return to workplaces, which we've talked about before. When you look at what's going on with like why a lot of people can't hire folks and they absolutely want to go get the welfare because of that. And some of it, though not even most of it, some of it had to do with people being just scared for their fucking lives. One example, as the Journal noted, was a 49-year-old product manager in New York who still insists on meeting up with friends if the engagement can be outdoors. Another is a middle-aged father in Dublin, Ireland, who felt uncomfortable celebrating his birthday with family. And so there's more stories on this. It's called cave syndrome. Now, what, of course, these people aren't going to ever do is that they have the experts that we were supposed to listen to all across the world have just as much of an impact on this people's behavior, which you're basically calling it a psychological disorder. They have as much to attribute to that than anybody. Now, I could sit here and laugh all day long at these fucking weirdos who want to live like that, but understand this, and I'm going to be as realistic as I possibly can about it. These people are paranoid. You want to know why they're paranoid? Because you scared them to death. Now, if they had led like they had, let's just sit, hold on. Let's sit and think about this. Think about it. Is this the first disease, or rather sickness, respiratory even illness, that we've seen? Is this the first pandemic or epidemic, rather, at least, status thing that we've seen in the last, let's say, even 20 years? Of course not. It's not. Did y'all forget about Ebola? Did y'all forget about the swine flus of the world? West Nile virus? All of these things that existed that people, was told they were dangerous, and you may get it, but did we stop the entire country or multiple countries from it? Of course not. We never did any of that, which is why a lot of people weren't scared for their fucking life. SARS? Do y'all not remember this? The unique thing and what they don't want to concede is that these experts got high off of this shit. They were allowed to basically control the entire world. Damn the advice of the people that were actually knowledgeable on the economics of it all, and said, which is, people think that of economics is only money, which is not. It's, as the great von Mises said, it's the study of human action. That's what it is. So it's not just money, right? That's not what it's taken into consideration. Those people were not listened to, unless they were Keynesians. Those people were not listened to. Instead, we allowed people that were in one side of the profession, and not even one side of profession, one side of the profession that had one opinion, and we allowed them to control the entire world. To act like they didn't contribute to this paranoia is bullshit. They contributed to it. They should be attributed to why people are acting as crazy as they are, because these same people lived through other issues. The thing about this is that collectively, you used the governments, you used your forms of social media that people were on, you used mainstream media in order to hype this stuff up to something that it never was. You made it seem like it was an apocalyptic virus. You made it seem as if people it was a death sentence in the event that they got it. Though none of the data read that way, it's not like you ever led with the good news. The only good news that was to be associated was to wait, you basically said, stay in a bubble and wait until we develop an experimental vaccine. That was all you did. You didn't tell people that, it wasn't no leading charge by way of the people that knew about the health. It wasn't like they were working with the government for campaigns to get people to work out. No, they said, you sit down, you shut up, you stay in a bubble. You can go to McDonald's through a drive-through, but you stay in your bubble and you don't move. Sure, is it going to make you heard the term COVID weight? Is it going to make you more likely to have a severe reaction in the event that you are obese and you have these other issues, you're vitamin D deficient, you don't take your zinc? Stuff that you can deal with right now to ensure that you, or at least somewhat, ensure that you won't have a severe reaction. They didn't lead with none of that. They just said doom, fucking gloom. And this is why people are acting the way that they are. Well, they're nervous to even go outside. The people that are to blame are the public health experts who promoted this garbage and made it seem like it was something that it was not. I know you guys have probably had arguments and back and forth with people who act as if this virus is something that it simply is not. Like, where you sit up here and you have to stuff the data in their face and they still won't listen. But you get it. It's like, dude, look right here. Remember when I was going through the New York numbers and I was sitting, I had to go do that like every other show or every other stream that I was doing. I'm like, dude, what y'all are saying about this virus simply is not true. It's a overreaction. That does not mean that there aren't people that are going to die, but people do die, guys. None of us getting out of this alive. But you made it seem like it was an apocalyptic virus that people would just catch in the event that they just were near people. You had people having face diapers and all of this sort of stuff. Stuff we did for no other viruses, even similar ones. We approached this in a way that we did nothing. We did it no way. Even for viruses that were deadlier, we didn't do this. Maybe less infectious, albeit, but even deadlier. That, like the Ebolas, we didn't do this. So you are to blame. Yeah, thanks for telling us that there's something for this called cave syndrome. I appreciate that, so we can have a scientific term. But y'all are to blame. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.